to a new episode of Deathblow Podcast. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like and share my videos. Instagram and Facebook always opening with new news and something new. Deathblow Podcast recently has a dedicated website. Go check it out. You will find the link in the description. Deathblow Podcast is also on TikTok. Follow me there also. Today I wanted to talk to you about a very famous band that has returned to the forefront of metal music websites in recent days, and obviously I'm talking about Slayer. Why is there so much talk about them lately? Because they will play live later this year at a festival called the Riot Fest in Chicago and at Louder Than Life in Louisville, Kentucky. They will play in Chicago on September 22nd, while in Louisville on September 27th. Not only, even at the Aftershock Festival on 10 until 13 October in Sacramento, California. For those living in the United States, it will be an incredible event for a band that I retired from world touring and playing live since 2019. I recommend you to don't miss it if you are a fan of this band. Some might think it's a publicity stunt, others were just waiting for their concert, but they are Slayer and they know how to make the public talk about themselves. Let's start. Slayer are a thrash metal band formed in Los Angeles, specifically in Huntington Park, back in 1981. Why did they choose this name? First choice was Dragon Slayer, but they remain only Slayer that meant Satan laughs as you eternally rot. But according to Dave Lombardo, their choice was between Wings of Fire and Slayer. They came up with the second, more sinister and adapted to their evil and satanic sound. They began their musical career thanks to the meeting between Kerry King and Jeff Hanneman. King was impressed by Jeff's skill, and so they started playing Judas Priest and Iron Maiden covers. Jeff Hanneman, real name Jeffrey John Hanneman, born on 31st January 1964 in Oakland, California, sadly died in 2013. May rest in peace. He grew up in Long Beach, Los Angeles suburb. His father was a German and a veteran of the Normandy landings, while his brothers were veterans of the Vietnam War. This increased Hanneman's interest in everything related to the war events of the 20th century. Thanks to Wikipedia, we discovered this. He was working as a telemarketer in that period. He met Kerry King at an audition for a southern rock band called The Ledger. Kerry King, real name Kerry Ray King, born on 3rd June 1964 in Los Angeles, youngest of three children. His father was an aircraft part inspector and his mother worked for a telephone company. He remembered that his father encouraged him to play to keep him away from bad habits and circles, and so music became a real passion for him. When him and Jeff met, they started a band, and meanwhile Kerry was in a band called The Quits, playing guitar with another guy that was a friend of Tom Araya. The Slayer started to be the real Slayer. Tomás Enrique Araya Diaz, born on 6 June 1961 in Chile. Araya family moved in the US, especially in Los Angeles, when he was only 5 years old. Thanks to his brother Cisco, he started to play bass at 8 years old. During the 80s, his family encouraged him to start a career as a respiratory therapist. These three members entered in contact with a neighborhood drummer called Dave Lombardo, real name David Vincent Lombardo, born on 16 February 1965 in La Habana, Cuba. His father was an owner of 3 meat markets there, and when he was only 2 years old, his family moved in Southgate, California. He has 2 brothers and a sister older than him. When he was only 8 years old, he had his first show. He even had a band at school and played the drums. He played the covers of Kiss and started to take drum lessons, but he was not satisfied about it. Lessons were boring for him. Years later, he was introduced to other music genres and even started to be a disc jockey, but his parents were not happy about it, so he left music for a while and started military school. Music awaits him again in 1978 when he came back playing with high school bands. When he was 16 years old, he entered in contact with Kerry King thanks to his friends that knew him and that was living only a few blocks away. Together they started to meet and play, and all four members started their musical journey from this moment. On discojazz.com, I discovered the Slayer play live at Woodstock Club in LA, and while they were performing an Iron Maiden cover, they were spotted by Brian Slago, the owner of Metal Blade Records. If you missed the Sodom episode, Metal Blade had even this band also. Go to check the Sodom episode on Death Bell podcast. Coming back to Slayer, Brian met them backstage and asked them to participate to a compilation album called The Metal Massacre Volume 3, and they accepted. The song that took part of this was called Aggressive Perfector, recorded at Track Records in Los Angeles. After that, they were signed on this label. The first album that came out was recorded in the same studio and was entitled Show No Mercy, recorded in November 1983, released on December 3rd of the same year. Cover album designed by Lawrence Reed. The album was financed by Arias savings and borrowed money from King's father. Analyzing the arrangement of this album, the scream at the beginning and the velocity of riffs give the impression of Hell on Earth already. Screaming evil at the first track already want to give the perspective of satanic environment. The guitarist, the riffs, and the speed immediately give the idea of cruelty of the sound, the pure thrash metal. The sound vaguely reminds me of Venom as a fusion between thrash and death in their case. They also remind me of Sodom in their sound. Jeff and Kerry's technical solo gives the album a sinister feel. Arias' voice is truly beastly and high-pitched, but unlike Led Zeppelin, they want to instill fear in their sounds, very similar to Metallica Instructor. I really like Die by the Sword track with dissonant chords and fast solos. On a technical level, as a first album, it is exceptional. The guitarists demonstrate that they know how to play like true professionals. I say that I don't particularly love this band, but I have to admit that they put a lot of effort into performing some very well executed thrash pieces. Their style doesn't focus too much on chords, but rather single notes with structure and fast solos. Dave Lombardo's drums blend well with Jeff and Kerry's guitars. The drum solo at the beginning of Aggressive Perfector with guitars is very interesting, and then evolves into a fast and well-structured thrash sound. Black Magic, one of the band's most famous, contains some interesting riffs and also a very well-made chord scale. The best track in my opinion is this one. The themes and topics of this album are the essence of evil, chaos and Satan, the anger that spreads among men, becoming the Antichrist. For Slayer is a symbol of strength, lost and damned soul to live a torment, killing innocents and die by the sword, an endless war, with the swords and weapons ready to kill opponents, night the spells to defeat the curse. Darkness is the main thing. Night the spell to defeat the curse. Darkness is the main thing on the album, escaping from fear and pain. This debut album sold around 40,000 copies and it was an immense success for the whole band. The next work they released is entitled Haunting the Chapel, an EP which contains only 3 songs: Chemical Warfare, Captor of Sin and Haunting the Chapel, from which the EP takes its name. Recorded at Track Records Studio like the previous work and released on June 1984. Produced by Slager always and cover made by Vince Gutierrez. The beginning of this EP is interesting. Great guitars with drums that make a very interesting intro. Chemical Warfare reminds me a lot of Sodom's Blasphemer. Have you ever noticed that? Arias' voice always super aggressive and powerful, pure trash. This song, I have to say, is not bad at all. The tempo change in the middle of the song shows maturity from the first work, and they experiment with new sounds, a fast sound that never tires even after 40 years. Captor of Sin starts right away with a guitar solo and fast drums. They demonstrated that they are not joking from a technical point of view. The variations of the riffs are very important on a technical level, so as not to get tired with repetitive riffs and sections. The solos continue within it to make the song flow. Arias' voice is always powerful, but not as elevated as in other songs containing scary high notes. Haunting the Chapel begins with a guitar riff and Dave's drums. Here we notice a lot of excellent work from the drums and the guitars with several sequences of fast and evil sounds. Perhaps the fastest songs on the entire EP, interesting guitar scales and solo always present in almost all the songs. The lyrics on the EP are full of death and genocide, soldiers defeated by the deadly gas and more, the gates of hell opening onto earth, infernal souls and Satan's followers who kidnap souls, Christianity that lies, talking about hate, the ghosts that torment priests. The kingdom of Lucifer is ready to rule on this earth. The church infested with demons, a symbol of failure of Christianity according to them. Also, during the same year, Slayer started to have a US tour to promote the album and released another one entitled Live Undead, released on November 16 by Metal Blade Records. 1985, it's time for new material to bring into studio and it's the turn of Hell Awaits, released on March 12, produced by Brian Slager, always under Metal Blade, but a different distributor, Combat. Mixed track record recorded at Eldorado Studios in Hollywood, this time for better production and sound. Artwork contains elements from Approaching Centauri by Jean Giraud and Crossroads of the Universe by Enki Bilal, both featured in the July 1977 number 4 issue of the Fantasy Illustration magazine entitled Heavy Metal, thanks to Disco GS. The beginning of Hell awaits with dark sounds and beastly guitars. Hell has descended to earth. There is also the word Satan repeated backwards. It already gives you the idea of truly brutal thrash metal. Lombardo's drumming seems to be in the middle of a satanic ritual. The guitars this time are much better elaborated in my opinion. An even faster thrash and Araya's voice, always sharp and at times demonic, with a great voice to represent the infernal voice of Satan. The guitar solos are also very well done. Lombardo's drumming in Kill Again is very well developed and improved. Here the guitars use more chords and fewer solos, but always present. Speed is a very important point for the composition of this album. We can say that anger and aggression are the true protagonists of this record. The ending with Araya's voice screaming Kill Again is a cathartic scream and demonstrates a remarkable vocal range. Interesting work of the guitars with the bass, excellent understanding between the members, and it's a unique energy. Great drum tempo variation throughout the entire song to avoid boring the listener. I admit that I am much more fond of dissonant chords and not single notes, but the slight dissonance at the beginning of the song is very well done. The bass work here is also notable. Intros very fast and the riffs are always violent and beastly. Let's say that I don't notice much difference between the various songs. Their style is more or less the same in almost all songs. Fresh guitar riff, and then the various instruments are added. They manage to give emphasis to the song. Continuous tempo changes and accompanying ultra-fast guitars seems to be Slayer's secret. Intros with a march that then turns into a thrash riff, a real arsenal, not of weapons, but of ultra-fast guitars and drums. A slight dissonance of the guitars to make the song hellish, at times fast, at times less. So to be more accurate, it is a complete album where almost nothing is missing. The album's lyrics deal with battles between angels and demons, souls that cannot be saved, hell that awaits them dead, flames of hate burn restless souls, life as a continuous battle, killing and blood flowing everywhere, murders and minds blinded by hatred, committing sins at night, lust and corpses. Satan's soldiers are ready to have more souls to send to hell, live to die, witchcraft and an entire world in decay. Always in 1985, they were included in a video collection together with Exodus and Venom entitled Combat Tour Live: The Ultimate Revenge under Combat Records. Regarding Venom, I did an episode in the previous season of Deathflow Podcast, go check it out. About this live recording, Slayer played live at Studio 54 on April 3rd, 1985. While they were on tour with Venom and Exodus, something unexpected happened. Hanneman and Lombardo were on the Venom tour bus while suddenly appears a drunk Araya asking where the bathroom was. Kronos hands were in my mouth, so he urinated on the head of him. Because of that, Kronos later punched him in the face. Araya was for the rest of the tour with a violent time. Crazy, huh? But these are some of the true stories musicians had. During the Hell Awaits tour, They rented a van for the trips that the band would have to make for all the tour dates and also Araya's car due to space problems. Like any band, it wasn't easy to get money at the beginning, and so they were forced to stay at fans' homes. Furthermore, Slayer complained that they spent all their earnings from the tour on food and alcohol. After releasing 2 albums with Metal Blade, all together decided to take a different path with perhaps the most important meeting of their career, with Def Jam producer Rick Rubin. Rick was producing hip-hop music at the time, but despite this, he was always loved rock music. He had a distribution contract with the CBS Records. Thanks to a friend of his, he had his first contact with Slayer in New York at one of their concerts. He was really impressed by their thrash metal sound and was interested in working with them. Another studio this time ready for next release, called the Hit City West, always in Los Angeles. This album I'm about to tell you achieved a resounding success all over the world and also received numerous criticisms. Rain in Blood, recorded in 1986 and released on October 7 of the same year, produced by Rubin and Slayer, engineered by Andy Wallace and cover art done by Larry Carroll, who the band didn't like, but used it anyway. The album starts really fast with some riffs and killer drums. Araya screams, as in previous albums, is always present. The aggressiveness of the riffs and the energy of all the members can be felt a lot. The variations in the riffs and structure gives a different idea. The drums often change the tempo, and I might say that you can really hear the difference. It was very well recorded. The sounds are much cleaner. The guitar solos are also very clear. The voice was well recorded and the sounds were clear and well defined, fast and sharp, necrophobic. I really like the sounds of Lombardo's drums, and the speed here is very noticeable, and the cruelty of the song is remarkable. Let's say they never break away from the fast and thrash sound. I don't notice any particular effects on this album, just ultra fast drums and guitars. Only Jesus Saves starts slower than the others and builds an interesting tempo before exploding again into wild, primitive thrash metal. I noticed that they took a lot of inspiration from punk for this fast style, especially the fast singing. In Epidemic, in the middle of the song, there is a very beautiful guitar scale that ends in the solo. Postmortem recalls at times the primitive sound of the first black metal albums. Rain in Blood is the only song that contains thunderstorm sounds and opens with a truly unique dissonance. Maybe the breath of fresh air this album needed. The drums are really reminiscent of the black metal sound, although it remains firmly in the thrash metal genre. Lombardo's tempo change tries to make a song brutal and epic. The song ends as quickly as possible in a pure chaotic way. Maybe in the United States they were the first to be really fast. In Europe, the riff speed race has started already a couple of years before. The duration of the entire album shocked everyone within the band, only around 29 minutes, perhaps due to the speed or brutality. The fact is that they are 29 valid and successful minutes. Regarding the writing of the lyrics, Slayer were inspired by the Angel of Death, namely Josef Mengele, a German physician who carried out atrocious experiments during the Second World War. For this, they were criticized and labeled as Nazis by critics. Also, for this reason, the songs were not broadcasted on the radio, and Columbia, Def Jam's distributor, did not want to distribute Rain in Blood due to the cover and because of the song Angel of Death. Geffen eventually distributed it later on. The description of the lyrics contains both graphically Mengele's torture of the victims of his experiments, including surgery without anesthesia, injecting fluids, etc., dismembered bodies, terror, ripping organs from within in a sea of blood, ceremonial deaths within rituals, death is an encounter with the afterlife. Criticism of Christianity, waiting for Jesus' salvation for them, is useless. It's a form of dependency. They also talk about criminally insane people locked up in prison for the rest of their lives. Curses and be condemned for eternity. Death does not exist because there is no end, according to Slayer. 1988, 2 years after the release of Rain in Blood, they recorded South of Heaven, again in Los Angeles and under the supervision of Rubin, released on July 5th of the same year. again under the Def Jam label. The beginning of South of Heaven is really very beautiful. I really like this. This dissonant works very well done. We are at a higher level of musical quality, and I must say that it does not disappoint at all. The intro is not very fast but very well structured. The guitars take up a European metal style but always faithful to their timeless thrash. I admit that this album is different from the previous ones, but this surpasses them all in quality. Very well made semitone scales, and then it's back to fast thrash with drums and guitars. Araya's ever-aggressive voice, ever-present and beastly. The guitars work in dissonance compared to previous works, and I admit to being a fan of dissonant guitars. For me, this album remains an excellent work. Very good. I like the drums that vary a lot and do mini solos within short sequences. There are also some brief Araya singing in behind the group crops, and then he returns to his singing that he's used to. Guitar solos are present in all songs, a Slayer trademark. The songs alternate between ultra fast and less fast but well structured. This album features sequences of remarkable quality, even though I'm not a fan of thrash metal. It also featured a spoken word on the track Mandatory Suicide, which was new because they had never experimented with it before. Ghost of War has some nice guitar and drum work. In Spill the Blood is the first time they used some sort of acoustic guitar, but I wouldn't be so sure. The arpeggios and intro has never been played by them before. Alaya's vocals on both Dissident Aggressor and the album's last track are not high-pitched screams, but clean. Something new. The lyrics of South of Heaven deal with themes such as death and Judgment Day. It doesn't differ much from previous albums. Committing sins, sanity destroyed, souls condemned for eternity, losing all hope and rampant chaos, tormented souls, death approaching and driving you crazy, progressing anguish, dead bodies and pain too strong to bear. The undead do still live, living a living hell. Criticism of Christians, wondering where God is and why He doesn't save humans from this hurt full of pain. An endless war, not only internally, but also being surrounded by lifeless corpses, a terrifying sight. And that's all for today's episode of Death Blow Podcast. Subscribe, like and share for new episodes and news on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok. And if you want to contact me, see you soon guys.